joining us here.
Thanks, man.
On a Tuesday, my friend.
Happy belated.
Thank you. By the way, Mark gave me a pre-birthday present. It was his own brand of tequila.
Mezcal.
Yes.
Mezcal Campante.
Way to
You
go.
liked it? Oh, he didn't even try it yet.
No, that's not it. I am not by choice a tequila drinker, but I told my wife, I said, I'm going to change. I'm going to give that a shot.
New year, new me.
Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. New year, new me. I love that. So you had the Commanders. I want a Mark Sanchez story. So here's Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
It's the regular season. Woo! Yeah, there's no more Giants.
Sure.
Now it's Tampa, a team that Baker Mayfield and the Bucs are number 1 in the league in third down conversions. You may be sitting watching chunks of the game.
That's right.
It's on the road. Vita Vea. That Bucs roster, Mark's got a lot of playoff experience. Yours doesn't have any. Take me back to the Mark Sanchez first playoff run.
Yeah, I think most importantly, rookie quarterback on the road in the playoffs. I mean, that's all I knew because a guy named Tom Brady and the New England Patriots were winning the division, so we had to go on the road quite a bit. And most importantly, when the stage and the atmosphere and everything gets bigger around you, your focus has to narrow. You hear Mike Tomlin talking about that hyper focus and a singular focus. That's where he has to get. And it's fundamentals that win these games, the turnover battle, having a run game, having your defense really step up. Remember, we had an excellent defense in New York, top 5 each year. One of them, I think they were top of the league. And so when you have that, understanding what that gives you as a quarterback, you might steal a possession or two because your guys will get you the ball back, right? Or they're going to be playing so well, like it's okay to go 3 and out and punt, just don't give the ball away. My issue with the Commanders is that defense played 75 snaps last week. Like, they were grinding in a game trying to beat the Cowboys on the road, which was essentially kind of meaningless because Atlanta ends up losing. Now they don't know because the games are at the same time, but a defense has a lot to recover from. So I think that's a factor. I think for a young quarterback and Cliff Kingsbury, just like Brian Schottenheimer did for me, get him completions early. Get him on a hot start. Get him to go 3 for 3, whether it's just easy stuff underneath to the halfbacks, Eckler out of the backfield, Zach Ertz, safe target for Jaden Daniels. We had Dustin Keller, Jericho Cotchery. We'd hand the ball off to Thomas Jones. Like, those were safe, easy plays to start the game and get hot. I think that's really important. And then the biggest matchup to me, if you're talking their offense, Jaden Daniels, is the center. Biotish, remember, he was the 4th rounder from Dallas in 2020. Yeah. They parted ways with him. He goes to the Commanders. Dallas would love to have him back. Right. Okay, he was supposed to take over for Travis Frederick, a legend, Cowboys O-line, known for having all those great centers anchoring those O-lines all the way back to Gerard. I mean, you name it. So this team is going to have a guy who's been banged up the last couple weeks, Biotish, with an ankle injury, going against Vita Vea all game. I mean, Vita Vea is listed at 350. That was probably his combine weight. Yeah, okay? Right. My man, especially after the holidays, that's a load now. That's like a Winnebago parked in front of the center. That is hard to move. Yeah. So I think that's a big issue for them in the interior part of the pocket, being able to run the ball. And then the next guy I'm looking at is Winfield. Winfield's 50-50 on the Bucs defense, the safety. Love Antoine Winfield Jr. He basically got him in the playoffs last year and won him the division on like a strip sack or whatever, or on a strip fumble near the goal line. So this guy is a big deal in the back end for Todd Bowles. But once again, rookie quarterback, great defensive coordinator on the road. That's a tall order.
I want you to go. So Sam Darnold had a brand, and he was athletic, great kid, reckless, big moment, shrink. Then he has this year. But the way our brains work, and then against Detroit, it's ugly, and we all go, okay, this is what it is. And that's unfair, but that's what it is. Sure. Now we go to a Rams game, and I said this earlier. Everybody can lose, and it's fine. But if Sam struggles, now all of a sudden we're like, okay, the stakes are high, and there's Sam. So, again, maybe go back to you. He has been on a heater. Nobody denies Kevin O'Connell and the receiving corps don't get credit. But then all of a sudden, do you think Sam, kind of going back, seeing some ghosts and not struggling, is he struggling going against the Rams thinking, I lost my fastball a little bit?
I wouldn't say that. I think that's more of a fan natural reaction and recency bias because of this most recent game. But some of the biggest factors leading into this week for Sam are, that last week felt like a playoff game. On the road,
No question.
That was the most chaotic environment he's probably seen all year. Maybe Seattle on the road, wet, loud, just tough defense. That was a tough one, and he pulled it out on the road. Well, this one, divisional opponent, familiar opponent, that was a hard one. He's been on the road, went toe-to-toe with the Rams earlier in the year. You know how SoFi can get until, they're in the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's going to be packed with Rams fans.
Right.
The Rams might be on a silent cadence at home.
Yeah.
Which is, you might hear the Skol chant quite a bit.
Yeah.
With some people from Minnesota looking for nice weather right now. So I think that's a huge factor. I think he's coming home. He gets to be back in front of his family and friends. You always play great. It feels like when your family and friends are there, you got to step it up a little bit, find a way to figure out some of these throws and whatever. But you saw these are like the clutch plays he made on the road in the rain to Justin Jefferson against a good Seattle defense. He did it against the Packers. I mean, there's plenty of good tape. I think if we're talking about his inconsistency last week, I think he took a couple bad sacks early that really got him behind the chains. And then we're talking off by like 2 inches, 3 inches on about 4 throws early in the game. First and second quarter that really shaped the game, and then the Lions kind of ran away with it. Those 4 throws to Hawkinson on the sideline, Addison in the end zone. I mean, we're talking tiny margins here of a completion, a touchdown versus incompletion, punt, field goal, whatever it is. So I think familiar opponent, these guys know each other's system. One of the interesting matchups for me is the defense for the Rams. Chris Shula, he goes against a system very similar to this all the time and has to do it against Matthew Stafford and 2 premier receivers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. So that familiarity of those systems, what's going to be the counter? What's he going to show that and you're going to jump the route, and then boom, there he goes right behind you. So I think this kind of chess match, this one's going to be fun. Remember, the Vikings had a chance to win it on the last drive of the game.
Yep.
Last time they were here, face mask, not called, whatever.
Yep.
Okay, fine. That's going to be the kind of game. I think it could potentially be a shootout. That'd be fun for Sammy.
A guy you don't cover a ton because it's AFC. But I said this year that Buffalo and Baltimore seem like the best versions that Josh and Lamar have had. Mm-hmm. Now Lamar's got Zay Flowers, a real he's a get up the field guy. He has Mark Andrews. Now he's got Derrick Henry. And Buffalo, now finally Josh has James Cook at receiver. Kincaid's a terrific tight end. I feel like it is the best version of it. But these teams just keep underachieving in spots. And I want you to talk about the pressure. You were in New York. There's pressure. And then there's playoff pressure.
Sure.
And you've been in buildings with this sort of stuff. How does a Buffalo or Baltimore not think about the previous 5 years? How do you get that out?
Once again, you put the phone down, hunker down in your building, trust the coaches, trust the players around you. Those are the only narratives that matter.
Okay.
And there has to be that laser type focus. When you get into those moments, once again, fundamentals, ball control, time of possession, field position, all those things matter.
Simplicity.
Yes, and as the stakes get bigger, you always have to go back to my fundamentals. The field is the same size. We're using the same kind of ball. It's the same rules, okay, other than overtime. So let's brush up on those.
Into this.
Yeah, of course, and brush up on those overtime rules just in case. You know what I mean? That's important. Do you want the ball? Do you not want the ball?
Interesting.
It matters. Are you going to touch the ball no matter what or not? I think that's huge. Might want to walk through that. I think the coaches will do that,
right.
So we don't end up with a San Francisco situation.
Right.
So listen, those kind of things matter. And, once again, on the outside, until you get over that hump, until you win that game against Mahomes or in the championship game and get to the Super Bowl, then it's you have some doubt. But these players, I mean, come on. They're in this position because they don't doubt a thing. They trust themselves. They trust their coaches. They trust their preparation. And if you don't, you wouldn't be where they're at.
Eagles-Packers is one of the marquee games this weekend. Philadelphia, to me, is the most stacked roster. Green Bay is really good, but now they've lost their over-the-top receiver, Christian Watson. In a game like this, A.J. Brown, Philly's got their over-the-top guy. Green Bay now doesn't have theirs. So, Mark, you've got film. Let's talk about how Jordan Love's mentality could change a little bit, knowing I don't have one of my, You know, I always say in the playoffs, it's nice to get an occasional freebie. Not everything can be a 12-play drive. Sometimes it's like nice to go over the top.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think when you talk about the loss of Watson, I think it's a factor. I don't know if it's a major factor in that, you know, he was there, sixth in receptions, third in yards. So, of course, he was a big play guy. But I think with Reed, Kraft, some of the other players, Dobbs, who they have, I think they're going to be fine, especially if they ride that run game like Jacobs can do. Like, he provides a lot of cover for Jordan Love, who's nursing. The injury I'm looking at more than that is the groin injury to Jordan Love. I think that, you know, every time you throw, it just keeps aggravating the injury. So it's a soft tissue thing, and until you fully rest it, it's going to be a problem. So does that lead to anything? I don't know. We'll find out. I think really one of the key matchups is out on the edge. When you talk big play receiver in A.J. Brown and then defender Keyshawn Nixon, remember, the Packers lose Jair Alexander. He's been on IR. And so without a premier corner like that, you got to get a little more exotic with your coverages. You got to mix some stuff up. So here's some clips of A.J. Brown versus a cover 2 and 2 deep safeties, 5 underneath defenders, and he shreds it. But look at how aggressive Keyshawn Nixon plays in his cover 2. I mean, that guy's going to jump some routes. He's going to take some chances, and he's got some great football skills to get his hands on the ball. Then, okay, well, let's play him in man-to-man. Well, holy smokes, you got to guard this big sucker in man-to-man all the way across the field, and then look at him run after catch. But watch this guy play man-to-man. Keyshawn Nixon plays through the football. That's one of the hardest routes to cover, a shallow cross route all the way across the field. And then, of course, A.J. Brown in traffic, contested catch, makes the catch, in traffic, contested catch. This guy plays through the ball. So that, to me, is going to be a monster matchup. I want to see
a risky,
risk-taking
corner, and really one of the elite players in the league on the outside.
100%. And if you look at that Philly offense, the offense runs through Saquon Barkley. Okay, it's a run-first team. That offensive line has established that mentality. They own the line of scrimmage. That's what they'd love to do 30 to 40 times a game. That'd be great. Well, if you got to throw it, it runs through A.J. Brown. Is he doubled or is he singled? That tells me right there where I'm going with the football. If he's singled, you better watch out. He's going to be potentially my first progression, and I'm going to have eyes on him. If he's doubled, now we got to make some moves. Some other guys are going to have to make some plays for me. So I think what you're going to see from Hafley, the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, is some exotic forms of cover 2. So the reason you can't just line up and play cover 2 against the Eagles is because they got a run game. It's really hard to stop the run with 2 high safeties. Cornerbacks actually have run responsibility and contain in cover 2. It's not just pass responsibility, right? So I'd rather have some bigger guys get down in there and play the run, because you need hats on the football when Saquon's running the ball. He rarely gets tackled by one guy. So how are you going to do that? You either take one of those guys out of the field, or what Hafley has done, he's done this invert cover 2, and he has these exotic ways to get there. So he brings the safeties down out of the middle of the field, brings them on the edge, and they end up moving to the corner position, and the corners fly out of there at the snap. They present to you something, and then they give you something else once you snap the ball. The corners go back and play half the field. So I have a really good clip of how they did it against San Francisco. Remember, run game, good receivers on the edge. This is how they played against the San Francisco 49ers earlier in the year. So watch this clip. First of all, he's going to show you what some of these great coordinators show you across the league. 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. Flat top look by the back end. Look at all the DBs. Look at the backers. They're mugged up in the A gap, but no, they're going to drop out. So they're going to present you something, a problem blitz-wise, and then they're going to shift the coverage. So these 4 guys on top, that looks like 0 to me, Colin. That looks like there's no help, man-to-man across the board. And as soon as you snap this football, watch where everybody goes. You see those corners fly from their position and go back to the middle of the field, and they're splitting the field in half. So now these are the half players when usually they're the flat defenders. So this is tough to see as a quarterback sometimes unless you are really dialed in. Now you got your 5 defenders underneath. If you do decide to run the ball, those guys are going to have to make plays. Those safeties that came up on the line of scrimmage, they're going to have to make plays. And that's Saquon Barkley's area underneath in the pass game. You got to rally and tackle that guy. So I think the confusion, especially if you're not going with Jalen Hurts, or if you are, he's got to be dialed into that. Depending on his concussion or whatever, either Pickett or Tanner McKee, both, younger players, not a ton of experience for both guys. That's going to be interesting to see how Hafley draws up a defensive plan for a guy like Barkley and a coordinator like Kellen Moore, who's, incredible. He's done a fantastic job this year.
What's interesting, we got about a minute, 2 minutes left, is what's interesting if you go back to the first piece of video is Eric Mangini has told me this for years. You go into games, you don't have it all figured out. Some of this stuff is who wins the corner receiver battle.
Yep.
And your takeaway is you got a guy that's going to take risks.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you got a guy that's like, I'll punish you if you. So my take on this is you're going to see this is a big play game.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're missing one of your big splash players, potentially Watson, right? He's done for the year. So who's going to have that explosive? You know, the rushing attempts, completions, those things are going to factor in.
You got two A backs.
That's
multiple top receivers. This is a splash game.
Yeah, these are this one in the Rams game. I'm pretty excited about. Like as an offensive guy, and then wanted to see how these coordinators, you know, design something to throw them off, and then what's the counter in the third quarter. You know, that's really why we tune in. But this is like the best 5 days of football, I think.
And
right?
You knew when you were quarterbacking, there were defenses. You're like, oh, they're going to take risks. Was it easier for you then to digest during a game? I threw a pick. This is what they do. They're high risk.
I think, well, once we tightened down in the playoffs, the interceptions went way down.
Yes.
And I think the game plan was so streamlined. We knew our identity. We knew what we wanted to get to.
Right.
And our contingency plan was if they come after us, we have to have a plan. Versus cover zero, I need something. And that's not always a shot down the field. It could be a quick catch and run. And these are the moments where it's the extra strain, the extra receiver block to spring Jacobs for a long run, to spring Barkley for a long run with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith sticking their head in there and hitting one of those safeties trying to come up and play run. That's going to be the difference because margin for error in the league in general is pretty small. In the playoffs, it's, minuscule. So this is going to be big.
Great stuff today. Nick Wright, Mark Sanchez.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.